Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of End and Explain. My name is John, and today we are talking about the newest in the franchise for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with the same title, obviously. And if you've never seen this movie, be sure to go check it out, come back, or don't, that's fine, but there are going to be a lot of spoilers up ahead. You've been warned. Without any further ado, here we go. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2022. The film opens with a little bit of goodwill as we hear the original narrator, John Larroquette, narrate the events of the original film via a true story documentary. But don't let that fool you. Larroquette is all about that cash grab reboot game, as he's currently trying to push really hard to get his 1980s sitcom, Night Court, rebooted. Please, Lord, let the reboot stop. Anyway, our final girl Lila watches on TV while purchasing some Texas Chainsaw memorabilia, which is kind of odd when you think about it. I mean, when was the last time you just saw someone casually walking around with an Ed Gein t-shirt, you know what I mean? Anyway, we learn from the friendly clerk that Sally has become a Texas Ranger, and has been trying to hunt down Leatherface for the past 40 years, but never could because he was wearing a mask. But she could have found the house, right? According to this article on the window, witnesses reported of Leatherface dancing around with a chainsaw, so they know where the house is, right? Hell, they have pictures of it. I have no doubt that the house was probably owned by Grandpa or the old man, and so I imagine there's probably a deed that would have a paper trail lead back to the killer, right? And trust me, this movie knows all about deeds, but we'll get back to that later. Anyway, the movie from this point takes an immediate turn downhill as we meet Lila's sister Melody, a San Francisco trust fund kid who dragged her sister, her boyfriend Dante, his fiancée Ruth, and a bus of other hipsters to the small town of Harlow to auction off old properties and create a gentrified hipster paradise.
Real change is here.
Now, this would be an easier pill to swallow if the characters weren't so damn hateable. I mean, I understand why every horror movie has that hateable character that you can't wait to see die, but in this one you essentially hate them all. They're essentially outraged Twitter users with a pulse, here to project their thoughts and ideas onto people who never asked for them to be there in the first place.
Gentry fuckers.
We meet a local man named Richter who Melody mocks for having a big gun and poisoning the environment with his exhaust fumes.
Look at this guy. Who has such a small dick they need to walk around in public with a fucking gun? I mean, is he compensating for something?
Bitch, you haven't even gotten to town yet, and you're already starting shit with the locals. Slow your roll. When they do get to the town, they talk about how they're gonna renovate everything, but it becomes increasingly clear that they haven't done their homework.
This is a chance for people to start fresh somewhere without the violence and the madness. Somewhere safe.
The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history.
So yeah, it becomes pretty clear pretty quick that they bought this town, primarily because of its cheap cost. They're then interrupted when they realize that the mechanic that they hired is also Richter, the same guy that they mocked at the gas station.
So you guys are what, like a cult?
We're idealistic individuals who want to build a better world.
Yeah, that's a cult.
Richter would be great at CinemaSins. They notice a Confederate flag on one of the buildings, so Dante and Mel go to take it down before the investors can get there. But boom! An old lady pops out with a jump scare. But she's nice though. She makes them sweet tea, tells them how she ran an orphanage for many years, helping the less privileged individuals, to which Mel says, "Get out!"
Ma'am, the bank, reclaimed this property months ago. You're not supposed to be here. There are shelters for the elderly and, Shelter.
God, I hate Melody. I hate her so much. From that point, the poor old lady has a heart attack and is piled into the police van / ambulance with Leatherface in tow. And are any of our relatable characters that we've met have any remorse about what just happened? Of course not! They were more concerned about the bus full of investors who are going to see the dying lady any moment now. Since Melody and Dante are expected to be here for the investors, Dante's fiancée Ruth decides to ride along with the old lady and Leatherface to make sure she's okay. Which is odd, really. When you consider the group of friends, she's probably the nicest one in the bunch. She didn't cause any of this. Mel and Dante did. But I digress. Mind you, I'm going to be digressing a lot. In the back of the van, the old lady dies, sending Leatherface into a murderous rage. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, she's basically been taking care of Leatherface for the past, 50 years now, and, just making sure that he doesn't do the whole killing thing he likes to do so much. How the police have not pieced this together yet is beyond me. They're evicting an old lady who's taking care of a 70-year-old man who has mental problems, And they must stop and go, wait, he's 70. 50 years ago, there was a lunatic that was roughly 20-ish who killed a bunch of people. I bet they're not connected. I mean, come on, it's a small town. So small that they even make a comment that everybody knows that these gentrifying fuckheads are coming, yet they can't piece together that the one crazy guy in this small town might possibly be the guy that they're referring to in those awful t-shirts at the 7-Eleven? Alright, proceed. This seems like a good spot for some killing. Aw, I liked Ruth. She was in the trailer and easily was the least detestable of them all. Well, at least Leatherface has a new mask. Back at the garage, Lila is giving some backstory to Richter about how she was a victim of school shooting in what feels incredibly disingenuous. Like, the writers just spun a wheel one day and said, hey, what's kind of in the news? Yeah, school shooting victim? Haven't done that before, let's go with that. It's not that I hate the idea entirely, it's just that it feels so haphazard and shoehorned in. Is there any finesse or any type of detail, any type of, social commentary we're trying to make with this? Nah, but it's in the news. People talk about that. Put that in. It also seems statistically unlikely that she would be the sole survivor of a murderous rampage, not once, but twice within the last 5 years. But I digress. So word gets out that Leatherface is back, and so is now Sally, the original survivor from the first movie. She's been trying to hunt him down for over 50 years, and you kind of have to wonder why she didn't stop looking after maybe 2 to 5 years. I mean, I know they were her friends and brother, but like, if you can't accomplish anything within 50 years, maybe stop. Personally, I much rather like the idea of her character being committed to an insane asylum. I mean, look at her. Look at her in the back of the truck. She would have needed years and years of therapy. Maybe she comes out of her craziness, but the idea of her toting a gun around and hunting this guy down, not everybody has to be Laurie Strode. I don't know why they had to do this. Wait, but I guess I do. Back in town, when Richter finds out that the old lady passed away, he takes the keys to both the van and the car and tells them that he won't give them back until he gets the deed to the house that proves that the old lady was or was not the owner of the house. Not the owner of the house. Which seems kind of odd to me, considering that, he kind of barely knew her and he's working with them. But, plot point. So they go in the house to make sure that she didn't actually own the house, and lo and behold, she did. So yeah, these fuckers need to die. And they do. Dante gets stabbed in the head with a cleaver, Richter is begludgeoned to death with a hammer, and of course, as seen in the trailer, a bus full of potential investors and influencers who threaten to cancel Leatherface if he makes one bad move. And as cringy as this movie is, as disconnected as the writers are, the bloodbath that follows is kinda great. I especially laughed when we see Leatherface reach in and pull a random leg out of the way. Anyway, after previously hearing Ruth on the radio describe Leatherface, Sally decides to gear up and head into the town of Harlow to track him down. She does find the sisters, and rather than take them to safety, she locks them in the back of a police car with nowhere to go. Protect and serve, you say? Yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, she tries to confront Leatherface about what happened 50 years ago, and surprise, surprise, he doesn't remember.
Say my name. Heisenberg.
Of course he doesn't remember. He's 70 years old and you're asking him about some random people he killed back when he was 20? I mean, if you bring me to a party and introduce me to like 7 people in a row, I'm gonna forget their names within like 5 minutes of that. You really think he's gonna remember what happened back in 1970? Who gives a shit? Why would he possibly remember or care? Much like Laurie Strode, she thinks an awful lot of herself, thinking that this is all about her. This dude just likes to kill.
I'm the one who got away, and I'm here to make sure you don't.
Can you please stop firing bullets of exposition at me? Thanks. Anyway, Leatherface does get the upper hand, and she is killed in the most unceremonious way possible, making you wonder why they even brought the character back in the first place. I mean, I know why. But why couldn't they tie her into the plot somehow? Like, maybe she was also protesting the auction, or maybe she knew the woman in the orphanage. I mean, literally anything would have been better than this. And yeah, she does tell Lila not to run, but rather than stand up and take him out because he'll be haunting you for the rest of your life if you don't. But I got news for you. She's gonna be haunted anyway. So Melody tries to run him over, thinking that might help, but is foiled when he throws his chainsaw at the car. Am I the only one that thought maybe the chainsaw was gonna go directly into the windshield? I mean, only 20 minutes ago, it was cutting like butter through the floorboards, into the drain pipe, and into anything else it needed to. Now it's like, oh, windshield. Plexiglass. Sturdy. Anyway, the two crash, leaving Melody pinned and Lila alone to hunt the butcher down herself. However, just like Sarah Connor, she's one bullet too short to finish a job, leaving Melody to come back and save the day. Okay, I'll give you this one. That is a cool shot. I like it. It's a little cheesy, and the chainsaw actually doesn't connect with him, and maybe that explains a lot, but no, it doesn't. No, it really doesn't. Nothing explains a lot, but it is a cool shot. From that point, the two sisters jump in their stupid self-driving car, take time to open the sunroof, and discuss where they want to live, and boom! Leatherface is back, baby! And he pulls Melody out of the window faster than Freddy can pull a mannequin through a door. He decapitates her, of course, because the audience demanded this. And the driving car recreates the iconic drive-away shot from the original film. Now I'll admit, the self-driving car aside, seeing how clean and matter-of-fact in which Leatherface cuts her head off is probably the most memorable scene in the entire film. But you can't help but be pissed that it took them so long to get out of there. I don't think you could salvage this movie at all, but if you could, you would have ended it with them taking Richter's cold rolling truck, blasting the exhaust and giving Harlow the middle finger as they drive away. Not, I think I want to live here now. Ugh. In a post-credit scene, we see Leatherface holding the chainsaw, walking back to the house from the original movie, implying that the family from the original film might be back in some capacity. Maybe there's some new characters, maybe there's some old ones. The continuity is a little iffy. The film's director, David Blue Garcia, said, "I've actually brainstormed quite a bit about what would happen in a continuation of the story, or just another tale in this world. I have some really cool ideas that I'd love to have the opportunity to pitch if Legendary wants to make another one. There's also things that when I watch this movie that I look back and wish that I had done, so I've got those things in my back pocket if I get to do another one. And of course, there's that teaser at the end of the film, so there's definitely a future to explore." Yeah. Okay, buddy. This movie did so poorly at test screens that they delayed it for over a year and then eventually just sold it to Netflix. And even that didn't help. Unfortunately, much like many chapters in this franchise, they're probably gonna revamp it completely in about 7 years? Maybe sooner? Texas Chain Saw has a messy continuity at best, full of reboots and sequels that never seem to actually line up. According to Garcia, all of the original Texas Chain Saw sequels are canon. Well, which ones though? The second one, where Leatherface is impaled by Dennis Hopper before blowing the hell up? And what about Sally? Her backstory too? Okay.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Now, don't get me wrong, as much as I dislike this movie, it's not entirely garbage. It does have moments where it has promise to be a potentially good movie. It has plenty of gore, visually, it's beautifully shot, the set design was creepy, and the score was never overused. However, between the obnoxious characters that you have no empathy for, the ham-fisted political views of liberal hipster stereotypes, and the way they handled one of their most iconic characters, it's hard with a straight face to say that this is actually a quality movie. Much like Halloween Kills, it feels like it was made quickly and with little to no care for the fans. I often found myself wondering if the film was written by somebody who is extremely liberal and thinks that this is what the kids will relate to, or if it was written by somebody who strongly dislikes liberal hipster stereotypes. The film never really seems to pick a lane, and I never knew what kind of a movie I was watching. It also doesn't help that none of the characters seem to grow by the film's conclusion. They were just pretty awful the entire time. When Melody was decapitated, I was actually filled with a little bit of glee. She came into this town trying to gentrify it, even though the locals did not want this at all, and she killed an old lady that was genuinely a good person trying to make a better change in her community. The irony is that she killed the one person that actually tried to make a positive change in the town of Harlow. Right? I will say, however, that through my bloody Texas journey, I did revisit the original 2 films and I enjoyed them immensely. The original is a masterclass in cinematography, while the sequel is an outrageous comedy starring Dennis Hopper. Why I didn't cover those movies instead is a question I'm still scratching my head over. Maybe I still will, as they were a lot of fun for different reasons. Furthermore, as a kid, I still remember the 2003 version in theaters and how incredibly suspenseful it was. Far more graphic than the original, as the original was held back by a lower budget and the MPAA at the time. At the end of the day, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has been a fascinating journey of ups and downs. The idea of a mentally unhinged serial killer chasing you with a chainsaw is always horrifying, and despite the varying quality of each of these films, there's always something to be enjoyed in every chapter that's put out. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. I have been John here on Burns Reviews. You just got burned, and we will see you next time.